Good morning everyone. Today we're going to be looking at two very exceptional timepieces. One that's my very own one, the Seiko Prospex versus the Bulova Lunar Pilot. Literally are going to be comparing a black versus a white watch in terms of the colours. And what I also want to do this review because you've got two different colours here, two completely different colours, both very similar in terms of design of the faces, but both that have a completely different story behind them. One that's a bit more for historians, a bit more for history buffs and stuff like that, and one that's a bit more sort of sporty. Everyone's got their own sort of personal opinions on that, but that's based off the research I've done into these watches. That's what the sort of conclusion is behind these watches, why they're so likable and stuff like that. So here we've got on the left we've got the Bulova Lunar Pilot versus the right, which is the Seiko Prospex Speedtimer. So, at face value, the Lunar Pilot is much bigger. It's about 6mm difference. You've got a 45mm case diameter versus a 39mm case diameter in the Seiko Prospex. The actual thickness of the casing, the actual Bulova is probably thicker when you've got it on your wrist, but the actual casing thickness is very similar in terms of the width. So, it's 13.5 versus 13.3. The weights of the watches, this watch probably weighs around about 180 or so grams, and this one's just a little bit less. Very similar sort of straps going on here. It's quite a lot of weight actually in the actual casing, but that Bulova is a lot more. They both use a quartz movement. Now, the actual quartz movement used in the Bulova one is I'm going to try and get this pronunciation right, is a proprietary. I can't say it. Bulova quartz movement with 262 kilohertz of exceptional accuracy versus the V92 Seiko solar powered quartz movement that's powered by the sun. And yeah, so there's two very good movements going on there. I think the Bulova one is meant to be better, but then yeah, it's entirely dependent on taste, what you want to go for. So obviously that's the initial look at the specs. We'll get into a bit more detail with those a little bit later, but let's have a look at these dials here. Up nice and close with them. So you've obviously got the Bulova, which is a sort of a dark grey dial, versus the Seiko Prospex, which is a solar powered polar white dial. The actual dials going on, they have a similar sort of functionality. So you've got a stopwatch and tachometer, both doing the same sort of function. One thing you get with the Bulova is you get something unique I have never seen before, is the fact that you get a half a second counter rather than second counter. So it's counting in half seconds rather than seconds, I believe. One thing you get with, obviously this is probably unique just to this Seiko watch, but you get a on the F and the E there, that's to indicate the charge on the battery. That's something you do get. In terms of when you use the chronograph, they both switch into a chronograph function when they do that as well, so they're both very similar in that aspect. Let's do that now. Let's try and do a synchronized one. Obviously that below one's a bit more sort of noticeable when you see it. As you can see, that right hand side is spinning around counting out the seconds for you, as you can see. Really, really nice. Whereas the Seiko, not Seiko, sorry, the Bulova is the one doing that. Whereas the Seiko on the right is a bit more sort of subtle with it. And let's have a look at the wind back. A very similar sort of slow wind back. I've seen some watches that accelerate back, which is quite a nice experience to see. The whole watches are encased in sort of stainless steel, but the Bulova kicks the Seiko right out of the park with its 316 surgical grade stainless steel material versus just normal. I think it's normal stainless steel. I need to just double check that. What did I write down? Yeah, normal stainless steel. The actual glass behind the Bulova is a anti-reflective sapphire crystal, and the actual Seiko is a curved anti-reflective sapphire crystal facing. They both have luminous hands, luminous increments. The actual luminous material used on the Seiko is Super Luminova, I believe, whereas the Bulova is just luminous paint, I think. I'm going to just double check that. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, not Super Luminous, but Lumibright. In terms of waterproofness, the Bulova is only waterproof to 50 metres, whereas the Seiko is waterproof to 100 metres. So it's obviously got that the idea of being more sporty in mind. Come down to the crowns. I'm not going to look at the crown for the Seiko, but we'll have a look at the crown for the a nice movement to the second position, and a sort of a movement in that first position doesn't actually do anything, just spins around. Don't actually get a date function with the Bulova, which is an odd experience. I've always used to see watches with a date function on them. So coming down to the strap, we've got a 20mm strap versus 20mm strap. The Seiko would have come on a stainless steel strap, so giving it a bit more weight, but this Bulova comes on a fabric strap. But you can get these ones with leather, I think, as well, leather straps. But I think there's more detail going into this strap, probably because it's made for the watch. The strap for this one is just a strap I've ordered online to replace the one I had on it. But this one's got a nice Bulova print on the buckle there, quite like that touch, that's really nice. And a leather enhancer to stop the stretch on this, on those holes. The silicone strap doesn't have that feature, so it doesn't really stretch over time. Looking at the back of it, the Seiko has obviously that quick release strap on there and in place, and obviously the buckle is obviously going to be unmarked. But the buckle for the Bulova, there's obviously more detail going on with that. It's thin but wide. It's a weird one to experience that, really. The Bulova doesn't have a quick release option, but it simply just feeds into the strap, and you can just put a pin down the middle and take that strap off, whereas this one's obviously got those quick release options on there. I'll take this out of this strap so we can see the back plates. Obviously much more detail, much more importance behind the Bulova watch in terms of the Apollo 15 mission, which is the inspiration behind it, versus the Seiko one, which is a bit more sort of plain. Looks a little bit sort of shadowed really against that. Oh, I put it in the wrong one. No, that was right. There we go. So there we go, guys. That is the Bulova Lunar Pilot versus Seiko Prospex Speedtimer. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next video.